Man, no one has a, okay.
No, I do.
Okay.
Okay. I know these are probably premature questions, but I have two really important questions. Number one, are the members of the community gonna be able to buy stock in this corporation?
Okay, so. All right, so the question was, can the members of the community buy stock? And what's your second question?
My second question is, on down the line when you get open, and you have products for sale and products for usage, are you gonna be able to, utilize, local craftsmen, United States craftsmen? Are you gonna import everything from China like they do in Dollywood now?
Okay, great. Excuse me. Her second question was, once our property is operational, who's going to be permitted in providing the crafts and artifacts that we'll be selling at our property?
Products that you're using as well.
Okay, and so we'll expand that to say all of our products. So that's a great question.
Keep that South Knoxville,
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to add that as a third bullet point. So she says, utilize South Knoxville in the community. Let's make that number 3. All right, what other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to kind of go this way across the room. So we'll start right here.
I've driven back on that property and I know that there are some private homes back there. First question is, are they within the boundary of your proposed development? If so, the second question is, do you have any plans to try to purchase that property from those owners? Or if they won't sell, to use eminent domain in order to take it?
Okay, so two-pronged question. The first question was, are there outstanding homes that we need in order to complete our vision of the property? And then the second question is, if there are, will we pursue, an eminent domain strategy to try and seize that property? That's a great question. All right, next question, right here. We're gonna answer all the questions at once.
With the amount of people you're talking about coming in, and how much are you setting aside for parking?
Okay, so that question was with expected volume, how many parking spots will we have? Black.
Why South Knoxville?
Okay, great question. Why South Knoxville? All right, throw that one up there. I might answer that at the same time I answer the number 3, you, South Knoxville.
As I was looking at the storyboards, the part about the roads caught my eye, said there were going to be designs that look worn and used. Exactly what is that going to entail? Are they going to be rutted, rough, dirt?
Great question, and you are a very astute individual. So her question was, in some of our materials, we're talking about the fact that our roadways are going to be ancient looking. So great question. What does that mean? Are you keeping up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, right here.
Might be a little premature, but you guys have already designed this company yet to make furnish all these houses.
All right, so his question is, do we have someone already for designing of furnishing? So FF&E, fixtures, furnitures, equipment, and we are receiving emails as we speak about people who want to do this. We're gathering all those. We have made 0 commitments so far. That's going to be a really fun part of the project. That's probably, 5 or 6 months from now that we really do that in earnest. But if you or someone you know can add value to this project, please go to our website. There's a drop down under info where you can say, I have information that's worthwhile for you to hear. That's the best way, because that's going straight to me and I'm aggregating all of that, sorting it, keeping it. We have staff interest, vendor interest, questions. We have a lot of information that we're receiving and we're sorting all of that. So you'll get an automated response back. It'll say thank you. That's your confirmation that we've got it. And then we'll be reaching out one-on-one later. Yes, ma'am. Corinne, thank you for coming.
So, Nixon Road.
I will do green next.
And then you, okay.
Okay.
I want to know about affordability. You said that this is for the children in the neighborhood, that you're going to take your child there. And I realize that you actually probably come from a better income family than a lot of the people in these areas. So I've heard that one of the places is going to be $2,500 a night. I can't afford that. Is anybody
Neither
else
could
in
I.
the area going to be able to afford that?
All right, so the question was about affordability of room rates. That's a great question. We'll add that one. We're on page number 2. Oh,
You talked about noise pollution, light pollution, that sort of thing, but are they gonna be permitted to have fireworks on the side?
okay, that one's so easy. I'm going to just go ahead and answer that. So the question was, can we have fireworks or will we pursue fireworks? And the answer is no. And Corinne, I'm sorry. I need to go back to you.
But you're no fireworks. So Nixon Road is in a valley. And since the woods have been very radically thinned out, I can hear sound on Spill Heights, across Johnson Norton, houses, people's conversation. So how can we have, how many people a day are thinking, and there be no sound that is amplified through that valley? Walls, sound doesn't stay screened by walls unless you put a dome over top of it. So sound will be amplified throughout that valley. So one of your points was you keep talking about that there will be no noise. It's a residential community. We value our quiet. We value the peace. That's why people live in South Knoxville. I'm really concerned about the noise.
Okay, so the question was additional clarification on the noise concern. So we've got noise on there. We will cover it again, and or we'll cover it all sort of under one bucket and address that particular point.
Will it be handicap accessible?
Yes, ma'am, it has to by law. Great question. I see a red sleeve, and that's all. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that there's gonna be 600 cars a day, and they just be coming in one, staying and then leaving. So I was wondering, since those people will only be staying at the resort, what will be the local economic impact, since they will only be purchasing and staying at the resort?
So her question was relating back to my statement about traffic impact study. If people are coming to the property,
It
and
wasn't related to traffic.
well, so that was the foundation, because your assertion was 600 vehicles, and then they come and then they don't leave,
Right.
and that's how we got the 600 number. And ergo, if they don't leave, how does that impact the rest of the community? Is that correct?
So what will they be spending at the local businesses, since they will only be staying at the resort, so they won't leave? They'll come and they'll stay, and then they leave and go home.
Okay.
How will they help the economy?
Help me get this right. So the concern is that people will not leave the property, so how can this help the surrounding area?
Impact
They would
businesses.
check in and then they don't leave.
Okay, all right. So how will we have a positive economic impact? Okay.
Are the restaurants open to the public?
The restaurants are open to the public, yes, ma'am.
How many jobs do you anticipate creating with this?
So our current staff projections are 150 individuals, and right now it's the local community that, of course, is getting all the press. We haven't done any job postings or anything, so it's people interacting with our website off of our local press release, and the resumes we're getting right now are all from Knoxville. So we obviously hope to engage with the community. We have a lot of exceptional skill sets here. We're not that far away from Sevierville and a lot of hospitality centers. We've got Blackberry Farms. We've got a lot of great places. And then we've got a lot of good jobs here. Minimum wage at our property is going to be $20 an hour. That's a commitment. And so these are good jobs. And obviously this is a visionary stage of the property. So, yes, Ms. King.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to ask, first of all, when will your first job fair be to give the opportunity for the people that are not working in South Knox County available to come to? Where and how will you be announcing those?
Okay, so her question is, when will we have a job fair or announce our openings to the public? Wow, you are fast. Okay, I think
Was the answer, I didn't get the answer.
we're going to do all the answers at once.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes, and currently, how many people do you have on board working for you?
One. You're
And
looking at them.
Are any of them minority, or are they senior, over 60 or below?
No, ma'am, I am not.
No, no, okay, thank you.
Okay, so right here.
How will this financially benefit the county or Knoxville City?
Okay, so we had, how will we have economic impact for South Knoxville? Let's expand that to the county. And did you say the city as well, ma'am? Okay, city and county. All right. And yes, in the red again?
Yes. So can you explain, you said that this will be open to
Yes, ma'am.
Are you taking into the additional traffic from that into your account?
Yes, ma'am.
So the bedroom, there's 3 and 4 bedrooms in each home?
No, most are 1 or 2 bedroom. Actually, most are 1 bedroom. We have some 2 bedroom. We have 6 units projected that will be 3 bedroom.
Is this gonna be a seasonal business?
No, ma'am.
So what does the admission cost?
We don't know yet. We have to do a study.
Okay, so if the rooms are based at 2,500 and above, how much is the restaurant gonna cost to eat at?
Okay, so her question is about our price points, and we will add that in there because there's a lot there. So price points for the restaurant and the rooms.
Is this gonna be an affordable thing for all the people in Knox County to bring their kids to be able to see? How have you thought about that?
All right, we will add affordability to the price
Citizens
point.
of Knox County and
Yep.
children of Knox County.
Question right there.
I'm not sure this has been asked or not yet, but with all of the incoming traffic, the restaurants, the venues and all that stuff, have we taken into account any kind of road restructure? Because right now, South Knoxville roads are in and out, and we already are seeing a lot of the impact from a lot of traffic. So I'm concerned that it's just gonna be nonstop traffic all the time, bumper to bumper, with having, I mean, I'm all for building in South Knoxville, but traffic is a concern, and I'm wondering if that's been thought of, or if what we do with traffic highway, or I saw you bought it in there also.
Okay, so another question about traffic and how we're gonna deal with traffic on the roadways. So I think we've got that one, so we'll just make sure we cover
Who are you
it.
working with so far, and what directions are you looking at making outlets for your resort? Are you north, south, east, west? Last night we discussed you all wanted to go to Gatlinburg, you wanna go all the way to Townsend and to Straw Plains, which is exit 407 to Gatlinburg. So my question is, what communities are you planning on cutting through, which will affect property values? Yes, some will go up, some will go down, unless you live under the bypass or have noise. So what directions currently have you got in line for that program?
Can you give her the mic? We can't hear you.
Well, so
sorry.
I'm repeating back the
My
question.
question-
So
I'm
the
sorry.
question was about how are we going to affect different properties and what communities are going to be going through. It ties back to our sort of road development plan and how we'll allow people to access this property.
What agencies and which directions are you planning right now to route your 200,000 people a month into Chapman Highway? That's my question.
And what agencies we're interacting
Yes.
with.
Are you working with them already currently, and if so, which are those?
Okay,
Is it 200,000 a month or a year?
200,000 people a year.
Oh, perfect.
In the blue, and then I'll do you. I haven't seen you ask a question yet.
You started out talking about how this is gonna be a family-themed resort, and then you said that most units are gonna be 1 bedroom, so I'm just curious what kind of sleeping arrangements you have planned that an entire family can stay in a 1 bedroom unit.
So that's really exciting. So the question, well, I'll do this the right way. So the question was, if we have 1-bedroom units, how do we accommodate a family? Great question. That's going to be a fun one. And then right there.
This one kind of falls in line with that. My question maybe for you, maybe for your construction advisor. How are you going to be building these buildings? Are you going to be using natural earth or the natural building processes that are remaining famous from some of these tiny home shows? Or are you going to be using more traditional construction?
So her question is, how are we going to manage the construction process? How will we actually make this a reality? That is a great question, and that's going to be a really good one to end on. So I'll put that as our last question, and now I want to take some time to start answering. So what's important is yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. My property abuts this projected rights of land. I'm wondering how that's going to affect, Knox County has, rules and regulations. My son's been in prison for 7 years. 2 of his vehicles are sitting on my property, and they're not. So it's against the law. But how is this going to affect people who live in that area, who have been doing this for 100 years or so?
So would it be fair to classify your question as how will our development affect your land rights?
Yes.
Okay, so let's put land rights.
Like under city zoning rules, is that what we're discussing here?
Well, I've gotten several questions from you. I've got one new question right here, and then I really want to start answering them.
Will you be utilizing local contractors, subcontractors, and artists as much as possible?
Right, so that question is, are we using local labor on the project? Okay, so let's start answering questions. So can we go to the very front, please?
I'm gonna stand up.
Matt, while you're flipping that over, we can address these questions anytime you're over.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so if you want to send a question, there are two places you should send it to. You should send it to our website, info@Ancient Laura Village. You can email it directly, or you can go to our website and use our submission form. And then you should also send it to the Metropolitan Planning Commission, the Planning Commission as they're called now. Liz Albertson is the senior planning coordinator and who we are interacting with. And she's aggregating all of the public feedback and then sharing that with us. So those are the two focal points and the most efficient ways to disseminate information to the people that can actually affect this process.
One more question, please. May I ask why this room is so quiet this evening, and why we called a meeting just like you did for concerned citizens to get the information that you wanted, and I want to know. And last night was so disruptive, and you claimed this is going to be a peaceful community for your neighbors, or a place to have a peaceful place to be. Why was it so destructive? And most of them had A on B patches signed out and handed out to them.
Yes, Mr. Boyd brought everybody these patches to wear along with his cronies while we were trying to get answers for the community.
Because we support it.
Ma'am,
that's
ma'am,
fine.
that's okay.
I'm saying
That's okay.
peacefulness, freedom,
It's okay.
freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of speech. However, I believe the community deserves to get to know what's coming in.
But ma'am, you're not gonna be able to afford to even go and visit
You know
the
what?
village.
I'll decide that for myself.
All right, so thank you for the passion, and I'm sorry that you feel that I'm sorry you feel that the event was disrupted last
They were
night.
standing on chairs, screaming. We didn't finish our presentation for the disruption of people standing on chairs screaming.
Well, I appreciate your
They had
feedback,
to
and I
get
would
their
like to
legal
answer the
liabilities.
community questions now. So
Not
thank you very
down
much
chairs.
for your feedback. So
Thank you
let's
so much, Mr. Cross.
so let's go ahead and start answering some of these. So the first one is, can the community buy stock? So you need to ask the Securities and Exchange Commission to change the rules. You have to be an accredited investor to purchase stock in this corporation. So that has nothing to do with us. That's up to the Securities and Exchange Commission. So if you are an accredited investor, doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you're permitted to invest in this property. The second question is products for sale. Are they going to be local? Are they coming from this area? So yes, that's actually a really cool story. So Bobby Cruz is a local artist. She's the one who did our book cover and has done our art for all of our characters. And you know, we need artists of a lot of different varieties. You know, we need a glass blower. We'd love to have someone who does leather, pottery, you know, and all of those skill sets exist here. So I've already received feedback from the community people that want to do this. If this is a skill set you possess, or you know someone that wants to do it, please interact with us, because there is preference. We need this property to represent the spirit of South Knoxville and Knoxville as a whole. Because people are coming to this community maybe for the first time, and this is going to be their first impression of Knoxville. So we need that Knoxville flavor to give them a good experience. So our neighbors within boundaries. So we've been in the process of purchasing land to execute on this vision, and our plan is fluid. So based on the property that we possess, that will affect the vision of how this is ultimately realized. Will we pursue eminent domain? No. And even if we were willing to do so, we would most likely not be successful, because a private development is rarely afforded the privilege of eminent domain, because it just doesn't meet the standard of violating those land rights. That is a very contentious issue. And, you know, just from a philosophical standpoint, it doesn't fit what we're about as a property.
Excuse me, but however, if the city decides to annex your property, then yes, you will have city taxes, and it will definitely impact on what the rules and regulations
Ma'am,
are.
I was at your event. You were very gracious to let me speak, and I did not interrupt. And what I'd really like to do is answer the community questions. So I've given you lots of floor time. I'd like to take some time to go through my questions, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so how much parking are we going to have? That's something that we're still trying to determine with the help of our civil engineers. So we don't have the exact number of parking spots. That's something that we have to evaluate. That's something that's going to be part of our ultimate development plan. Why South Knoxville? Because Tom's from South Knoxville. Because this is a Knoxville project. Because this is about giving one more thing that Knoxville can be proud of. There are lots of places we can do it. There are lots of communities that would want us to do it, but we're all from Knoxville. I was born and raised here in Knoxville. I'm proud of Knoxville. I've lived in Boston, I've lived in North Carolina, I've lived in other places, and there's just no place like home. So who doesn't want to make home better? And this project is about a vision. There's a lot of passion behind this project, and that's why South Knoxville was selected. What will roadways look like? What does ancient mean? So yeah, that's a great question. So we will not have cars on the property. So cars will not drive through the property. They won't drive up to the units. These are going to be golf cart paths, electric golf carts. We're going to design them to look like wagons and sort of unusual. And then the paths they can't look like blacktop or concrete because it ruins the immersion. So, it might be impressed concrete with sort of a tile design. It's going to be something that, it obviously has to meet safety standards, but it's going to be just something that's aesthetically unique. So that was a great question. That's something we're really excited about. There are a lot of design elements that we're going to have that sort of push it over the top and show that even in the little details, we're really thinking through how do we transport you to this ancient lore village, this other world, if you will, to delight children and to convince adults. Do we have furniture designers? So again, very similar to using local craftsmen and artists. We have people coming forward with very unique skill sets, carpenters, people with small businesses, and we have a lot of unique needs. We had a long conversation today about our front doors and how unusual they are, how hard they are to price. They're round. One of them is maybe 8 feet tall. So there are not a lot of people that make 8-foot tall round doors. So we're going to have to find people in the community with skill sets. We may have to help support small businesses to support this business. It's really exciting. It's an entrepreneurial concept, and it kind of ties into how are we going to economically impact the area around us. But to me, it's kind of like any development. If you think about Chattanooga, when they got Volkswagen, they have 200 businesses around them now that supply the parts and materials for Volkswagen to do what they do. I mean, we're a tiny, tiny percentage of that scale, but we'll have needs too. And we'll need to get things from the community cost efficiently and in a way that matches our vision and our aesthetic. And this is a blank slate. So there's a lot of creative people in Knoxville, and they're going to come up with ideas better than ours about what that door should look like and how it should be designed. And we want to engage with those services. We want to help them be successful, and they'll make us successful. So that's a really, really good question and a neat point. Okay, so cost of room rates. So room rates are, they're dynamic and they move through something called revenue management. So in order to make sure that we maintain high occupancy, which for this property is about 80% occupancy, compare that to downtown, which is about 60-70% occupancy, room rates have to go up and down. So what is a frame of reference, a scale? So our entry room rate is approximately $200 a night. So it's not cheap. I mean, that's not a cheap room, but these are thematically engineered. There's an atmosphere. We're gonna have magical elements. We're gonna have unusual fixtures. The dwarf home is probably my favorite home, and I'm gonna talk about that some more later, but the lights are gonna be mushrooms. So it's haptic feedback. You touch that mushroom, it lights up. That's your bedside table light. I mean, it's just cool, and it's unusual. So we expect people to pay a premium to that. And this is 150 rooms, and there are fantasy fans and people that want to spend time with their children all across the country. So they're going to want to come. And so that $200 room rate we feel is an appropriate balance between can we deliver the quality experience that's necessary for this to be a immersive experience, and then is it still something that people can enjoy? Now, something pretty unusual that we're doing that most properties don't do is something we're calling the settler program. And what this is we're gonna let people from the community come and stay at the property in stages of development so that they can see how we're doing our construction. I know one of the questions was about construction process, but we've got underground dwellings and we've got tree houses. Pretty unconventional. We think people are gonna wanna see how that works. So in the early stages, you might just have sort of a bed and breakfast experience. You'll stay in the hotel and you'll come and look at how these things are being designed. So the restaurant won't exist yet, the amphitheater won't exist yet. All of those things will come later. And so that will be a depressed room rate. And we expect a lot of those people to be people here in the community. And that's gonna be an interactive experience because they're gonna come, they're gonna see how we're doing things, they're gonna get an early pulse on what this looks like, and they're gonna say, you all haven't thought of something, you need to be doing this. And then guess what? Now we get to affect our design and development trajectory. We get to incorporate that feedback. So there are gonna be a lot of ways that you can stay. Another project that we're doing is something called the Celebrate Goodness campaign. So once a week, we're gonna try and find partnerships with the local media for the selection process, but we want people to submit who's been a good member of the community, who's done something that needs celebrating, a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, a first responder, a child, somebody, and then the community will vote, and then they'll tell us who the winner is, and we're gonna award them a free room at our property. And it's just one of the many creative ideas that we've had to try and extend our values and our vision out into the community. So there's gonna be a lot of ways for people to stay here. And then the $2,500 room rate that was mentioned is our cap rate that ties to our so-called luxury villa that we're building 2 of. And that's designed for wedding parties. It's 5 bedrooms, it's a massive structure, and it's designed for people on the most special night of their lives who are coming to stay here and want to stay with their bridal party or whatever it is. So that's a very unusual room and certainly not representative of what this property is all about. We did fireworks. We're not gonna have fireworks. Okay, so how will we keep sound and pollution down? And that was asked relative to some of the lack of trees and the current noise that can be heard in that area by neighbors and homeowners. So part of the answer is in the question itself. Right now we have an empty valley, right? So it's empty. So it's very easy for sound to travel. When we have dwellings and we have some of the topographic elements and the shaping and the tree houses, the things that are going to be present in the valley, we think that's going to affect and diminish that noise transference to the community. But there's also going to be elements of a fence or a wall or grading, and all of these things have to be studied because noise is a form of pollution. So we're going to give our good faith best effort in our design. We're going to come up with a good idea. We're going to have an engineer sign off, and then we hand it to the planning commission. And that's our transparency and honesty check, because they know the same stuff we know. They have the same software, they do the same math, and they say, well, this assumption doesn't make sense. So actually you're going to be making more noise than you're saying, and then they don't approve it. So there's a natural, established vetting process. I can't just stand up here and say all these wonderful things and then not deliver, because the system, the government, is going to prevent that process from taking place, okay? We answered handicap. We will be handicap compliant. Economic impact to South Knoxville. So we already talked about the entrepreneurial aspect, the supply aspect. We've talked about the availability of jobs and then that minimum room rate. I'll go ahead and address the question, just because it's a good time to do so, about if people aren't leaving the property while they're staying here, how does this sort of spill out into the neighboring community? Well, people won't stay here forever. They'll come, they'll visit the property, they'll eat, they'll spend the night, and then they'll leave, and they'll go on and do other things. We think they'll enjoy other aspects of Knoxville, which has a lot to offer. We've got lots of hotels, we've got lots of wonderful restaurants. One of them hosted us last night. So we have a lot of different things that people can do in the community to enjoy this community, and people may come into Knoxville, stay in Knoxville, enjoy Market Square, head south, enjoy this property, and then continue heading south and go to the Smoky Mountains. And if someone's staying here multiple nights, as wonderful as I expect my property to be, there's only so much you can do on a 35-acre spot. So if I'm staying 3 nights, because I want to stay in 3 of the different dwellings, I want to experience how different they are, I'm going to need to go out during the day and do things. So obviously there's lots of opportunities. This isn't, a fixed spot. There's easy access. People can go back to their cars and they can do other things. So there's lots of ways that people will interact with South Knoxville, spend money, people will be making money, people will be supplying things in exchange for money. And then, of course, there's the tax element. This is hopefully going to be a very successful commercial development project. That's going to produce tax revenue. That tax revenue is going to go on to support the city of Knoxville and the county of Knoxville, the state of Tennessee, Union County with Sevierville and Gatlinburg and all that. They enjoy one of the lowest property tax rates because they have so much money from tourism. So commercially viable projects, good projects, make money. And then that money gets sent out to the government. And then all the wonderful things that we need the government to do get paid for by our visitors and not by our own taxes, which is pretty fantastic and a good deal. So there's a lot of ways that we hope South Knoxville will economically benefit. Will the restaurant be open to the public? Yes, it will. Our guests will have priority treatment. So it'll be a limited amount of individuals that'll be able to enjoy the restaurant on the property.
People that come into the restaurants, will they be able to go through the village? Meandering around?
I'm going to bake that in because it's a related sub-question to this question. Her question was, if I come enjoy the restaurant and I'm not a guest, can I then go enjoy the property? And at this time we think no. We're separating restaurant guests from people that are visiting the property. Number of jobs, 150 jobs. Job fairs, when and how are we going to do that? So you need to think about 4 phases of hiring. So we have the early stage, which is what we are now, which is working out of a garage with hopes and dreams and talking to the community. Then we're going to have a ramp-up phase. That's where we get, our management and the integral members who are going to help shape the design and the operations procedures and all that. Then we have our core hiring. That's the bulk of the jobs. That's the people that are going to make this a reality and people that will need to receive training to be able to do those jobs. So we're obviously going to be providing training, and we hope to partner with the state and get funds to help offset some of the costs of providing that training.
As in grants?
And so there are a lot of different ways we might be able to get money to support the training of employees. So, and then the last step is the ongoing hiring that we need in order to just keep everything running and to grow. So in each of those phases, we'll be reaching out to the community to try and get more individuals. And so those postings are going to go to our website. They're going to be made locally. We'll talk about it here. You've heard me say multiple times, if you know someone or if you think you're helpful to the project, send me your resume. We're already getting them, and we will keep those. Finance. So question was, how will this benefit the county? So again, that's mostly tax revenue. Those dollars go to the county government. They help pay for things that we need. However, the county chooses to spend those tax dollars. And again, this is sort of a softer benefit, but we hope that there's a reputation boost here. Again, our vision is that people associate Knoxville with this project, that they hear and learn about this project. When we had our local press release at the very beginning, within 24 hours, we had over 300 responses, people that wanted to stay at our property from 19 states and as far away as Germany. And that's basically local news and then word of mouth or Facebook or however else information gets sent out. This is unique. It's unprecedented. There isn't one of these anywhere. That's really exciting. It demands attention. It's part of why we have so many wonderful people here tonight. So that's very, very exciting, and it's a benefit that we hope Knox County will appreciate. Okay, so local visitors and then parking again. So I've addressed parking. That's something we're still trying to figure out. We want to make sure we understand that need. We will allow daily visitors. They're going to have to be capped. They'll pay a daily fee to come in and enjoy the property. So they're capped because of one of our 3 major design philosophies of peace and quiet. But this is 35 acres, which is a nice space, but it can't accommodate a whole lot of people. I mean, if we had 1,000 people coming to tour, it's going to ruin the atmosphere, it's going to ruin the ambiance, it's going to cause a lot of undesirable side effects, and then no one's going to want to stay there. So we have to figure out what that is. And there are experts in crowd control who will advise us what is the appropriate number of people without affecting that atmosphere. And they'll be limited to approximately the same hours that we expect guests to be checking out. So you think 11 a.m. to maybe 2 or 3 p.m. is when most of the people will be coming as part of a so-called day trip to tour the property and to see a limited part of it and maybe the artisan village or whatever it is. The rest are going to be people that are actually staying at the property overnight.
But the kids are in school then.
Seasonal business. So this will not be a seasonal business. It'll be open year-round, just like any hotel is. Price points, we talked about that as far as the room rates, and then the price point for the daily visitors is something we're still trying to determine. Will it be affordable? So it's going to be a special occasion. A $200 room night, it's not cheap, but it's also not some of the other luxury properties that we have nearby here, which are significantly more expensive than that. So it's something that will be tied to special occasions or a neat event. It's going to be worthwhile. It's going to be a memorable experience. We've created an entire atmosphere. The room is unique. So again, you're coming here to enjoy this sort of special time, this special place.